Hello there! Recently I've been having lots of fun with what you may call a different way of making melodies at the modular. I'm gonna use a module by Noise Engineering called the Clep Diaz. I thought it was a lot of fun, so I thought I'd share it with you. See you at the modular. For today we're gonna use mostly 5 modules and the Moog data for scientific purposes, so to speak, so that we know what's going on CV-wise. Our main voice is going to be the Moog Mother 32, but you can use whatever you have in your Eurorack. The Clep Diaz, as I said, is going to be the protagonist of today's recipe, but then we also have mutable instrument branches. But you can use something like a dual probability skipper from Ladik for what we're gonna try and do with it. We're going to use a quantizer. Again, you can use whatever you want. I'm using Ladik Q010, which is a super cheap and very efficient quantizer from Ladik, and I'm going to use Strymon Magneto for some tape delay. Okay, so to show you how the Clep Diaz works, I send the output of its bipolar output to the Moog data so that we can see how it works, and I am also going to send it a clock into the clock input over here. Now, nothing is happening because this is essentially a multi-mode step CV generator, which can also work as an LFO. We are not going to explore the LFO option for now. We're just gonna see the step and random modes over here. And you see that nothing is happening, but it is receiving a clock. This count knob here, this count encoder, is basically going to select the number of steps that we want our CV to be divided into. So this clock is obviously going to send 0, 5 volt, 0, 5 volt. And now if I turn the knob, it's starting to go up and down. It's obviously receiving that. And now if I select 2 steps instead, you see that it will divide it into 0, 5 volt, 0, 2.5 volt, 5 volt. And then I can select just up. Then I can select up and down, or I can select only down. And then you see that if I add another step, it will add 3 steps and 4 steps and so on. And in random mode, we have exactly the same thing, but we randomized output values. I'm just realizing that I said that it's going to go 0, 5 volt, but this is actually the bipolar output, so it's going to do -5, +5, and so on and so forth. Whereas if I use the unipolar output, it's going to go 0, 5 volt, 0, 5 volt, and dividing the output value depending on the number of steps that I selected. Okay, now that we got the basics of the Clep Diaz, I want to try and use this for melodies. But let's get a little patch going and let's explore our options. So I'm going to use the Mother 32 as a voice, so I'm going to send its VCA out to my mixer. And then I obviously need some sort of gate or a trigger in this case, because we are going to send the clock output, so it's simply gonna get a trigger for every beat. And now if I get the output of my Clep Diaz, which I'm gonna grab from the Moog data and send it to the 1 volt per octave input, I essentially get step pitches up and down, because obviously it's using the CV as pitch. And obviously I can get more or less steps. And if I go on random, it's gonna skip some values essentially. Okay? Not super interesting, not super usable. And this is where my quantizer comes in. So if I grab this and I'll send it to my Q010 Ladik quantizer, that's the V in, and then I send the output of this to the Mordax data, I can actually get a musical scale. So the way this works is that you have chromatic first, and then you have all the modes, and you notice it depending on the red and light button. So I'm gonna go with an Aeolian, so a natural minor scale. So now I'm essentially getting notes from the Aeolian scale. Let's stay on step up and down for a second, and I can change the number of steps that I have. So now you see that this is already starting to sound a bit more musical. Now I want to grab the gate out for a second, and rather than sending it straight from the clock into the gate input of the Mother 32, I can send it to Mutable instrument branches. So what branches does is that it accepts an input, and then depending on the probability knob, it sends it out to output A or to output B. So essentially I can use it as a probability skipper. So rather than sending all the time a trigger out, it only sends it occasionally depending on this probability knob. So I'll send it there, and then I need another cable. By the way, I use this convention where my red cables are carrying CV and my white cables are carrying audio. So I'm gonna go on output B, and I'm gonna send it to gate input. And now, as I turn the probability knob clockwise, it's sending not all the steps, or not all the triggers, to the gate input of the Mother 32. So I'm starting to get something more interesting. Let's see if I can set on a number of steps. That makes an interesting melody, or arpeggiator sort of thing. To me, this starts starting to sound quite cool. So now, since I'm using the unipolar for the pitch, how about we're going to use the bipolar to modulate the filter cutoff of my Mother 32. I'm going to grab the bipolar here. I'm going to send it to filter, VC control filter cutoff. All right, now I think we might do with some space, and our patch is done. So we're gonna use the Strymon Magneto for some delay. I'm gonna grab the VCA output from the Mother 32 and bringing it into left in of the Magneto, and then I'm gonna grab the left out and the right out, and I'm gonna put them in my mixer. Okay, now we want this to be clocked. So now if I grab the output of my clock and I'm gonna send it to clock in, it's cool, but I think it might be a bit fast. I'm just gonna get rid of the feedback loop for now, for the tape, for the different tape heads. And yeah, I do think it's a bit fast. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to use another module, which you don't have in camera, but I just a very simple clock divider that I have over here. It's my Doepfer A106 and so now I'm actually grabbing a division of my clock beat and I'm gonna send it to clock input. And now I think it's quite cool. Oh, we could actually try with the quarter notes. Wow, I'm liking this a lot. And now, just because, as usual, it's easy to get carried away with the modular, I'm gonna grab a couple of LFOs here. And I'm gonna bring into a VCA. It's all stuff that you don't have on camera, unfortunately, but it's all pretty simple stuff. Or just a couple of LFOs from my Instruo Ochd. And I'm gonna grab the outputs of the VCA so that we can decide how much of these LFOs we're gonna use. And with one, I'm going to modulate the probability knob. And the other one, I'm going to modulate the CV input of the Clep Diaz so that I can decide how many steps. I can modulate how many steps are gonna be sent. So I'm gonna turn the two outputs of the VCAs of the LFOs up. And now this is all of a sudden quite interesting. I'm gonna get some wow and flutter from the Magneto. Take the tape page a bit down. I'll bring the crankle up. I'm gonna get some more spring reverb. Taking the speed pitch knob a bit high. I'm gonna start to get some feedback loops from the tape heads. This is basically feeding the single tape heads into the feedback loop. And I'm gonna move the LFOs a bit up. So you see here the LFO is modulating the number of CV inputs of the Clep Diaz. And I'm gonna modulate the probability knob a bit more as well. And if I move this from step to random, I get more variation, of course. And this is it.